Mike's going to talk about how everything you put on the internet could come back and bite you.
Blah, 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 blah.
And then some more blah, 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 blah on today's Not So Critical update.
I'm avoiding talking about this story because it exposes me for being wrong, basically. But I thought it's a good reminder. So it's a Reddit post. There aren't a ton of details for probably legitimate reasons. Person posts that they've been receiving death threats to an article from 10 years ago. And the basic storyline is person was interviewed in an article. He spoke negatively about some leader's son now is president and is hunting down anybody who's ever said bad things about them. And this article is available online. Therefore, this guy feels at risk.
So, Mike, remind us about your stance on privacy again, please. Just quickly.
I know. Like John would always bring up the example of if you live in a country, an authoritarian country or dictatorship, this is very dangerous. It's not just about privacy. It's about safety and security. Fine, whatever. Yes, it's terrible. And this is why I shared this story to acknowledge that these things do happen. And
ladies and gentlemen, this is true journalism.
True journalism. But wait, Mike, I haven't finished because.
Sorry, the episode's over, Peter.
This is the second thing. Jesus. Okay. So yes, you were wrong, but I also think this is a counterexample to John's incessant moaning that the EU is out to get us, because part of the GDPR is the right to be forgotten, which aims to protect against exactly this kind of situation.
Oh, can the government forget?
Well, so.
Okay, that was a class bit of sarcasm right there. I'll give you 10 out of 10 for that.
I said, can the government forget you?
The government
it should do, yes.
No, they cannot, and they will not.
They won't.
Will hold on to those yummy pieces of data forever.
But the issue here, though,
go ahead.
I think a relevant issue here, though, is that it was a news story that the person was interviewed in when he made these comments. So he knew the comments were going to be published. He knew they were going to be made available publicly. Now the problem is that he wants to retract that 10 years later. Does that change anything for you, Peter?
Go ahead.
Well, the right to be forgotten is the right for individuals to request that people remove information about them. So if there was an article or an interview about that featured someone in it, then as a European citizen, you have the right to ask the publication or demand the publication to remove it or excise you. Or
so if you were interviewed by a newspaper or something was written about you by a newspaper, you could go to that newspaper and say, destroy every copy that was ever printed that had my name in it.
No, there's reasonable limits, but if you're featured in an article online and they can delete your name from it, then they can do that. They can't obviously remove every cached copy of it or whatever, but they can take reasonable steps towards it.
You guys are tackling the wrong problem.
Yeah,
and I'm surprised actually.
Just wanted to point out where you're both wrong.
Yes, exactly. You guys are both wrong because you're
and then I'll say why you're both wrong.
You're not approaching this from the correct angle, and I'll explain.
I think John's going to say something that's correct. Sight unseen, I'm endorsing John's statement.
You guys are approaching this from a private company standpoint and what a private citizen can do regarding the data that a company is holding in Europe, right?
Yeah.
Forget about Europe and let's talk about the fact that it's not about the company, it's about the government. And this is a point I make time and time again, that the data that you as a freedom of speech participant upload talking shit about anyone that could potentially go into power or opinions about something that affects a party in power one day can come back and bite you so fucking hard that you'll literally get killed. And this is a perfect example of that, where, well, we live in a free country, we live in a democracy, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't matter. I can say whatever I want because that will never affect me. I can be pro-abortion and I can be pro this or pro that. And then one day, well, the legislation in power decides to flick a switch and now that is illegal.
Which feels
And you
less ridiculous in the United States than it did this time a year ago.
Right.
A few weeks ago.
Yeah. So this obviously I used the abortion example because it's so fresh still and it is America related, but it's across the world. This is happening all the time where people believe that they're protected until they aren't, and they don't realize this. So governments now are demanding from private data collectors, like big names of that country, I'm not saying Facebook or whatever, just big social mediums, to hand over all data that they have on all citizens. And then they can just run and parse through that. Say, give me everything that mentions our leader. Give me everything that mentions our leader plus the word kill, death, something like that. And they do that 10,000 times. They got a list of, let's say, 10,000 people, and they have now been labeled dissidents and are going to be pursued. And that is exactly the problem we're facing here.
Okay. I don't think it's exactly the problem that we're facing here. Quite. I think it's this is an individual who's getting death threats from someone, not a government that's holding data on him. I agree with your point. I don't have a good solution for it, other than the fact that this data shouldn't be collected in the first place. But this is an interview with someone. It's not, it's not like a part
but
of.
But this person felt totally fine saying this 10 years ago.
Oh, so you mean it's a general problem?
Oh no, it's like a self-awareness kind of issue where everyone's like, "Oh, I don't give a fuck. I don't have anything to hide. I'll wear my heart on my sleeve."
Oh, I missed that bit. No, that's we should all just be more careful about what we say. Yeah, fair enough. I agree with that.
Sure. And now this person, sadly for them, is getting a first-hand experience on something really scary, because the son in power or whatever that is being elected, I think we could probably narrow it down if we did a little bit of research on the country. That's really scary, because just because they're getting death threats from private people doesn't mean that those private people aren't funded by the sun, right? Like, which is a very common tactic in scary governments, is to employ shadow groups, if you will, to do your dirty work.
All right. It's feeling a bit conspiracy theory.
This is real. I'm not saying that this is a conspiracy. I'm saying that this happens all the time. Like gigantic Russia does this. Putin does this.
Yes. But I mean, there's got to be a line, right? Like, we can't walk around so paranoid that we can't say anything out loud. I mean, it's difficult to know what's going to be acceptable and what's not a couple of years down the line. In abortion, I think this is why one of the problems with the abortion situation in America is that it was never made a federal fundamental right. There was no like, the Roe v. Wade decision was that it was allowed, but it was never
codified.
What's the word? Yeah, codified at a federal level. If it had been, then this wouldn't have been such a problem. But the UN, this is one of my points that I bring back to Mike every now and again when he talks about privacy, is that the UN list of fundamental human rights, which includes, I think, Article 12 is the right to privacy. It's a good starting point, that kind of stuff.
The UN, who has like some of the worst offenders of their own rules sitting
man. But what
I
are
don't
your
like big. I don't like big.
I
don't like big groups of nations.
You don't like big groups of people. We should just anarchy, man. We just all look after ourselves.
Miniarchy, however, does sound appealing. Now, I am not saying that I'm for or against a miniarchy, but it is very interesting.
First time I've heard the term miniarchy, I'll be honest.
It's like a step away from. It's a step or two away. Anarchy. No. It's a step away from. Well, then you could say that about monarchy, because it also has the same letters, but that's not what that is. It's
Where's the min come from?
Minimum. It's the limited. It's the practice of a tiny government, and their only job is basically municipality and civil. And
minimarchy.
Oh, is that what it's called? Did I miss
I don't know.
I don't remember. I thought it was miniarchy. No, we don't need to get political though. And again, I'm not saying I'm for or against this. It just sounds very interesting. And all I'm saying is that
All right.
this person shot themselves in the foot, sadly, by talking shit about a future leader.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a perfect example because they, like you said, John, had no problem, presumably, putting their name on this statement 10 years ago, but now all of a sudden they're at risk because of it. To me, I did think it kind of highlighted the point that you made about like this is why privacy is important generally, because you want to be able to say these things without having the government come after you. I still don't know how to reconcile privacy with anonymity, because I will maintain that a huge problem on social media is the idea of anonymity. And I don't know how you can have people be safe to make these kinds of statements, but also not be free to cause a lot of damage.
Okay. I think we might have to solve that in another episode.
True. It's a
nice try, Peter.
But we made some progress here, guys. Well done. Good about this.
I wrap up the episodes, Peter, not you.
Fuck you, Mike.